Namaste, Amisha Kushropitia. I am JVN Dr. Meenakshi, Assistant Professor in Department of Shalakya Tantra Faculty of Ayurvedic Science, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. Today we will discuss the anatomy of the retina, part 2. We will discuss the peripheral retina, the various layers of retina. So what is the peripheral retina? It refers to the area bounded posteriorly by the retinal equator and anteriorly by the ora serrata. Peripheral retina is best examined with the intact ophthalmoscopy and by the use of Goldmann 3-mirror contact lens. And what is ora serrata? It is a serrated peripheral margin where the retina ends. Here the retina is firmly attached both to the vitreous and the choroid. The pars plana extends fairly from the ora serrata. Then the microscopic structure. Retina consists of three types of cells and the synapse is arranged in the following 10 layers. First layer is the pigment epithelium or the retinal pigment epithelium. It is the outermost layer of retina. It consists of the single layer of cells containing pigment and it is firmly adherent to the underlying basal lamina, which is called the Bruch's membrane of the choroid. And there's a term called subretinal space. It is a potential space between the retinal pigment epithelium and the neurosensory retina. This is the anatomy of retina. Then layers of second layer is the layer of rods and cones. Rods and cones transform light energy into the nerve impulses. Rods contain photosensitive substance rhodopsin, whereas the cones contain photosensitive substance iodopsin. The cone cells are helpful in photooptic vision and rod cells in scotopic vision. The cones are about 6.5 million and rods are about 120 millions. The rods, they are the cylindrical photoreceptors found in the greatest concentration on the edges of the retina. Most common type of receptor allow us to see in low light and provide for peripheral vision. The cones, they are the conical photoreceptors found in greatest concentration near the center of the retina. There are three varieties of cones, each most sensitive to a particular wavelength of light. Blue, green, and red allow for visual acuity and color vision. The external limiting membrane. Fenestrated membrane extending from the ora serratum up to the edge of optic disc, and the process of rods and cones pass through it. Next layer is the outer nuclear layer. It made up of the nuclei of the rods and cones. The cones nuclei have the dimension 6 to 7 micrometer and rod nuclei is 5.5 micrometer. These nuclei lie in a single layer next to the external limiting membrane. Rod nuclei form the bulk of this layer except that cone dominated foveal region. Next layer, the fifth layer is the outer plexiform layer. This layer is made of synapses between the rods, spherules and cone pedicles with the dendrites of bipolar cells. Bipolar cells are the first order neurons of visual pathway. The next layer is the inner nuclear layer. It is very thin and is similar to the outer nuclear layer. It consists of various type of cells like bipolar cells, horizontal cells, amacrine cells, Mueller cells, central retinal vessels, the glial cells, and this layer disappears at fovea. Next, seventh layer is the inner plexiform layer. It consists of the synapse between bipolar cell and dendrites of ganglion cell. It is absent at fovea. The eighth layer is the ganglion cell layer. It mainly contains the cell bodies of ganglion cells, which are the second order neurons of visual pathway. There are two types of ganglion cells, midget ganglion cell and postsynaptic ganglion cells. The midget ganglion cells are present in macro region with the dendrite of each such cell synapses with the axon of single bipolar cell. The polysynaptic ganglion cells lie predominantly in peripheral retina and each cell may synapse with up to 100 bipolar cells. The ninth layer is a nerve fiber layer, the stratum opticum, which consists of the axons of the ganglion cells which pass through the lamina cutrosa to form the optic nerve. The next layer is the 10th layer, which is the internal limiting membrane. It is the innermost layer and it separates the retina from vitreous. It is formed by the union of terminal extensions of the Mueller's fibers and is essentially a basement membrane. The next slide is of the blood supply of the retina. The outer four layers of retina is supplied by the choriocapillaries, and the inner six layers and they gets its supply from the central retinal artery, which is a branch of the ophthalmic artery. The outer plexiform layer gets partly by the both the above arteries. The fovea is avascular and is mainly supplied by choriocapillaries. The inner portion of retina is perfused by branches of the central retinal artery. In 30% of eyes, a cilioretinal artery branching from the ciliary circulation supplies part of inner retina, mainly the macular region. The retinal blood vessels, mainly the inner blood retinal barrier. This physiological barrier is due to the single layer of non-fenestrated endothelial cells, whose tight junctions are impervious to tracer substances such as fluorescein. So here completes our anatomy of retina. Thank you so much. This session is powered by Digital Version 2.0, Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it soon. Thank you so much. And the lower lid just touches the limbus. Then canthi. What is canthi? The two lids meet each other at medial and lateral angles, which are known as the outer canthi and the inner canthi. The medial canthus is about 2 mm higher than the lateral canthus. Then what is the palpebral aperture? It is the elliptical space between the upper and the lower lid. When the eyes are open, it measures about 10 to 11 mm vertically in the center and about 28 to 30 mm horizontally. Then we comes to the lid margin. It is about 2 mm broad and is divided into two parts by the punctum. The medial lacrimal portion is rounded and it is devoid of lashes or glands. The lateral is called the ciliary portion and it consists of a rounded anterior border, a sharp posterior border, and an intermarginal strip between the two borders. Two borders means the anterior border and posterior border. In between the two borders, there is an intermarginal strip. And there is a gray line which marks the junction of skin and conjunctiva. It divides the intermarginal strip into an anterior strip bearing 2 to 3 rows of lashes and a posterior strip on which openings of meibomian glands are arranged in a row. The splitting of the eyelids when required in operations is done at the level of the gray line. So you understood what is the gray line? Then next is the structure. Each eyelid is consists of various layers. So we study these layers from anterior to posterior. The first structure in the eyelid is the skin. The skin of eyelid is elastic, having a fine texture and is the thinnest in the body. Then next layer below the skin in the eyelid is the subcutaneous areolar tissue. This subcutaneous areolar tissue is very loose and contains no fat. It is thus readily distended by edema or blood. Then the next structure we'll discuss. Here's an image in which they have shown the structure of upper eyelid. In the lower side, there is the opening of meibomian gland, and at the root of hair follicle there is Zeiss gland, and there is fat gland, marginal arcade, meibomian gland in the tarsal plate. gland of Wolfram, peripheral arcade, Mueller's muscle, levator, gland of Cross, fat, septum orbicularis, orbicularis oculi muscle. Then the third layer in the eyelid is the layer of striated muscle. It consists of orbicularis muscle which forms an oval sheath across the eyelids. It comprises three portions: the orbital portion, the palpebral portion, and the lacrimal portion. It closes the eyelids and is supplied by a zygomatic branch of the facial nerve. Therefore, in the paralysis of facial nerve, there occurs lagophthalmos, which may be complicated by exposure keratitis. What is lagophthalmos? It is the inability to close the eyelids, and thus in the eyelid there is a striated muscle present called the orbicularis oculi, which is supplied by the facial nerve branch. So in case of facial paralysis, then patient suffer from the lagophthalmos. Patient is not able to close the eyelids, and when he is not able to close the eyelids due to exposure, there will be the inflammation of cornea. In addition, the upper lid also contains the levator palpebrae superioris muscle. It is called the LPS muscle. It arises from the apex of the orbit and is inserted by three parts on the skin of lid, anterior surface of the tarsal plate, and conjunctiva of superior fornix. It raises the upper lid and it is supplied by a branch of oculomotor nerve. Then the fourth layer in the eyelid is the submuscular areolar tissue. It is a layer of loose connective tissue, and the nerves and vessels, these lie in this layer. Therefore, to anesthetize lids, injection is given in this plane of submuscular areolar tissue, which is supplied by the nerves. It is anesthetized by the injection. Then the next layer in the eyelid is fibrous layer. It is the framework of the lids and consists of two parts: the central tarsal part and the peripheral septum orbital. I will show that in the image. The tarsal plate. These are two plates of dense connective tissue, one for each lid. Means in each lid we have a plate of connective tissue which gives shape and firmness to the lids. This is the function of tarsal plate. It is present to shape and provide firmness to the lids. The upper and lower tarsal plate join with each other at medial and lateral canthus. These two plates will join at the two canthi and are attached to the orbital margins through medial and lateral palpebral ligaments. In the substance of the lateral plates lie the meibomian glands in the parallel rows. Therefore, the meibomian glands are called the tarsal glands because they are present in the tarsal plates. Then in this image they have shown the tarsal plate and the septum orbital. Okay, the inferior tarsus, superior tarsus, and on the both sides they have shown the lateral palpebral ligament and the medial palpebral ligament. So next part is the septum orbital, which is also called the palpebral fascia. It is a thin membrane of connective tissue attached centrally to the tarsal plates and peripherally to the periosteum of the orbital margin. It is perforated by nerves, vessels, and a muscle called the levator palpebrae superioris, which enter the lids from the orbit. Then comes the sixth layer. The sixth layer of non-striated muscle fibers. It consists of the palpebral muscle of Mueller, which lies deep to the septum orbital in both the lids. In the upper lid, it arises from the fibers of LPS muscle, and in the lower lid from prolongation of the inferior rectus muscle, and is inserted on the peripheral margins of the tarsal plate, and it is supplied by the sympathetic fibers. Then the last layer of the eyelid is the conjunctiva. The part which lines the lids is called the palpebral conjunctiva, and it consists of three parts as we have discussed in the conjunctiva: marginal, tarsal, and orbital. So here completes the layers of the eyelids. So here our session completes with this slide. This session is powered by digital version 2.0 Jyoti Vidyapeeth Women's University. I hope you are satisfied with my digital session. If you have any query, please mention in the comment box. I will resolve it. Thank you so much.